So this is a video on how to create felt monsters from step one. You can see in front of you right now, I have 3 examples that I've already drawn, and here I'm going to show you how I got to that point. So you want to start off by choosing the size of the monster that you want to create, and because I have felt sheets that are 9.5 by 12, I believe they are, I had to go ahead and cut this paper down to this size so that I know that my monster cannot be bigger than my felt. Start with a piece of paper. You want like a heavier piece of paper just because it's easier when it's coming time to trace. When you're thinking about your design, simple is best. And honestly, the most successful sewing projects, especially when you're just starting off, keep it simple. I have a really cute little bunny, and it's really just a very simple shape with added, details. This one is also very simple and very cute and successful. And so they basically all start off with one main shape as the body, and I also use the body and the head combined. That way you're not doing too many different shapes, and then I just have my arms and my legs grow off of that. So I call this a felt monster project, but it certainly does not have to be a monster, as you can see with my bunny. So I always start off with my shape big, 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 big. Okay. Then I'm thinking I'm going to turn this into a bird. So I'm going to add my wings. Now, you don't want these tiny little wings. That is going to be really hard to cut, first of all. But thinking ahead, we're going to be sewing in this unit, so we want to make sure that we have enough fabric to sew. So I was telling my students in other classes, 2 fingers, put them together. You want everything to be as wide as your 2 fingers are. So right here where my feathers or my wings are going to be attaching to my body, I need to mark that because my wings cannot be any thinner than that. So I can go from there down. That gives me a good amount of width right here so that when I'm sewing, I can sew around the edges and still be able to stuff stuffing in there. So I'm going to measure with my fingers, make little marks, and then work from there. Now, I don't really even need to go up there because I want my wings to be super duper thick. So I'm going to change mine a little bit, but that's the minimum. It needs to be, at least that wide. Okay. Again, if I want to add any sort of a feather coming off of his head, it's got to be that wide. Feet coming off of the bottom. I'm using my fingers and I'm keeping it simple. Do not complicate your life and make things more challenging than they need to be, especially if this is your first time sewing. I'm going to make now for this step, these, parts don't matter, but for the future, it's just going to help me. After you've done it in paper, then you should cut it out. And after you cut out, you're going to be tracing this. So if you're having a hard time cutting, like right here, if that's going to end up being difficult for me to cut, I may want to rethink my design. Because if it's hard to cut in paper, it's definitely going to be hard to cut in felt. Felt is not easy to cut. You want to have a good pair of scissors, and I keep saying it, but simple is better because believe me, when it comes to felt, it's not the friendliest. So I just realized that was a little thin. So I'm going to just make my own shape there. Make it a little thicker. All right. And I might want to keep that. I might want to chop it right off here. If it's too hard, get rid of it. Maybe I'll just make it a 3-point instead of a 4-point. Okay, so those lines don't matter. Get your scraps out of the way. Get your felt. Now you need 2 sides. Oops, sorry about that. You need 2 sides. So you want to make sure that you're folding this to guarantee that you have enough felt for both sides. Put your little drawing. I call this a template. Sewers and seamstress will understand template. is what you use to start off your pattern. And I have a Sharpie, and I used brown because I'm using sort of a brownish color. Getting Sharpie on my paper doesn't concern me. It is here to trace. So the most important thing right now is that I'm holding it down still so that I don't move it while I'm trying to trace. Now, I'm thinking in my head, well, I don't want my whole bird to be this color. You need to pick whatever color you want as the main part of the body, and then you will certainly be able to add details. So let's say in this section I want this to be white. I can get a white piece of felt, cut out this shape, and glue it on top when it's all done. Okay? So now I've traced it once. I need to open this up again and trace it twice. Some people may have the ability to keep it closed and cut it together like this, but that can get really tricky, especially if you don't have a really good pair of scissors, like a brand new pair of scissors. The safest bet is to open it up and trace it again. And for my students, if you're one of my students watching this, this is what you have to do, because I don't want to run the risk of anybody having their felt sort of shifting as they're cutting and then not getting two pieces that are exactly the same. So if you are a student of mine, I would really like it if you could please make sure that you are tracing and cutting two separate pieces. It is going to be worth the time and the energy in the end. And if you're not a student of mine and you're just watching this video, if you've never done this before, I recommend doing this twice. Even though it seems like it's more work now, I promise you it's worth it. Felt is not the cheapest thing to buy, and you will end up wasting it. All right, so there I have two of the same exact shape. I'm gonna cut them out, and then I'm gonna end up with something that looks like this. From this point, you hopefully will have some scraps. So let's say that this was another student in my class, and they did a really good job cutting along their lines. All these little scrap pieces, we don't throw scrap felt away because somebody could use this. So if I'm the girl making the bunny over here, I could say, oh good, I'm gonna use this for the eyes, the eye shapes. I only have enough for one. Maybe I can find another piece of felt. So I can draw on here, cut this out. And when I glue, all this marker isn't nice to look at. So when I glue, I actually try to flip, like I know this is the front of my bunny. Now I've got these marker lines, so I'm gonna flip this, but if you flip this, you have to flip the other side too. That way they line up. And that's a good thing, but because it keeps your marker on the inside. So I would glue that there with some fabric glue, get another piece of scrap, cut my other eye out, glue it on, and at the very end, once you've gotten all your little details done with felt, and it's glued on and it's dry, we're gonna sew this. And I have videos on how to sew different things. There's different stitches that you're gonna learn if you watch my videos. So have fun with it, and if it's your first time, be patient and ask for an adult to help you. Good luck!